we feel that we have a responsibility to shine light into the darkness, there's a lot of darkness out here. We watch it all the time. I'm busy looking at the darkness saying, damn, there's some darkness over there. Whatever. And we have a responsibility to focus on it. And,
We know where the real life documentaries are.
Welcome back to Mac 101. You might remember the chicken or the egg question. The same question that we were asked when we first started our media studies degree. Which came first, the media or the culture? At that point, 4 years ago, we were told that there is no answer. However, this presentation will show us why this question should be revisited. As older generations continue to interact with online media and soon become replaced by younger generations immersed into online media, we should realize how greatly online media will expand. And as online media continues to expand, we should recognize something. We should recognize that wherever we are always acting with agency, the ability to act independently and make our own choices. The real question is, how independent are we? How independent are we? From our socioeconomic status to the customs we are immersed into at birth, there are innumerable factors that limit what our agency is. As media scholars, we should value this idea of agency and use it to take a closer look at the newly developing media system. Recognizing more people go online and interact with algorithms running in the background of all online media, we should be worried about how our information will and is being used for us and against us. When the information we seek is guided and built by extensions of ourselves and what we already believe, we are simply beginning to characterize and control ourselves. When our information is portrayed by our own bias, the external world, of course, always appears so simple. And that's because of algorithms. This being said, let's explain how they work and evaluate why they are effective. To be short, the technology behind algorithms work to collect our data and flip it for profit, promotion, and product creation. The information gathered is comprehensive. It goes from picking up the keywords you use to search things up, keywords that identify your bias, monitoring how much time you spend with each different source you come across, tracking what you avoid online as well as what you consume online. On a psychological level, using our own opinions, which they find through our usage patterns and wording, algorithms directly feed our cognitive biases. For example, the confirmation bias, our tendency to look and interpret new information to support our own opinions, is directly being used by algorithms because algorithms cater to our own opinions. By supporting our confirmation bias, algorithms support the availability bias, where we believe that what comes most immediately to mind is most representative of what is going on. So, as algorithms filter for our confirmation bias and then build the external world to how we already believe it is, when we later question the world and think for ourselves, we will immediately believe what comes to mind first, which would be our opinions that are reinforced by the confirmation bias algorithms thrive on. As more information becomes available, there is more complementary information available, which means most opinions will have some sort of support online which algorithms will send to whoever has those opinions. When we see our beliefs supported online, we start to gain a sense of inclusivity. What this leads to is becoming selective to who we listen to, who we share our beliefs with. We see our beliefs as extensions of ourselves, so we find societal acceptance in having our beliefs shared. This is to our detriment, as it has led to us being more hesitant to believe new information that contradicts our beliefs, ignoring information which challenges our beliefs, and changing new information to fit our existing worldview. Whenever we do start to feel convinced by new information, we may feel that we are betraying the community we already share our beliefs with. Algorithms are built off of our natural biases. By being built of how we naturally think and taking advantage of the patterns we use to interact, algorithms have reached a point of knowing us so intimately to the point of knowing what our future selves will be like. From a theoretical standpoint, the usage and gratifications theory states that we feel gratification from our media because of our motivations for using media: entertainment, self-status seeking, information, and socialization. Our craving for inclusivity and socialization leads to assimilation. Because algorithms are built to prolong our interactions with media, online media is becoming individualized, and by being so, we feel instantly gratified when we look at our media. And because algorithms are directly provoking feelings of inclusion, not only are they an extension of the UG theory, they are a perfection for the UG theory. To better introduce this point, COVID as the case study and compare how our actions paired with our media tendencies. Throughout the pandemic, there was a lot of misinformation, from the severity of COVID to rioting against techniques written for preventing infections. We should realize that online media is accelerating the spread of misinformation. Studies have already shown that right-wing media consumption has been associated with acting out against COVID protocol. As algorithms continue to separate and feed us personalized information, let's consider the implications of an individualized media system on the potential for collective movements. We are at a point where our method for consuming media directly controls the availability of information and the scope of what is available for us to see. As our algorithms learn from us, they are beginning to shape and heighten our bias, leading to extremism while constructing media echo chambers. This project aims to find how our media tendencies affected our individual actions during COVID. Due to how algorithms work and how different media sources promoted different coverage.
This virus should be compared to the flu because at worst case scenario, it could be the flu. And as you pointed out,
I created two hypotheses. The first, that regardless of the type of media you use the most, if you view right-wing media, you are more likely to act against COVID protocol. The second hypothesis is that people who are uninformed and don't view any informative news would have the same behavior as people that are misinformed. In order to test both hypotheses, I sent out Google survey interviews via email and social media. 50 different surveys were completed, over 80% of them between the ages of 18 to 25. While there was about 20-ish interview questions, the ones that were further used in the study simply revolved around self-reported actions taken during COVID, your employment, and social interactions done in large groups and indoors. Surveyees were separated by what media they identified as using the most. These responses were limited to work/homework, politics, social media, and sports. After splitting the groups, I took an average amount of actions against COVID protocol and compared them within each group. After taking a first average, then I introduced a stipulation that if you had to work in person, your actions were not counted. Further, within each media group, I included self-identified political news source consumption to test hypothesis 1. Across the board, this study found that people who consumed right-wing media were more consistently and more likely to report having more frequent actions taken against COVID protocol. Within each group, the extremes total actions against COVID protocol were nearly always right-wing media users. When comparing every group to each other, the ones with the highest averages were people who majorly viewed sports for media. They were also the least likely to wear face masks, which makes sense considering that people that are athletic may perceive themselves as better protected against the virus. And if you play sports, it's hard to do so with a mask on. It was hard to measure the second hypothesis, especially when you consider that most people, regardless of your media preference, identified at least viewing some type of political news. There was only a few people within the sports media group and the homework work media group that did not watch any political news. The sports people cited ESPN as their news source. The work group didn't cite anything. Coincidentally, the work group had low averages of breaking COVID protocol, while those that viewed ESPN for their news had a higher than average record against COVID protocol. Because of the contrast between uninformed groups, I cannot state that this study proves uninformed people are more likely to be misinformed. More so, this study shows that if you're uninformed, you're more likely to act as those around you are. Based off the breadth of our media habits and the correlation between media and action, it is clear that our media content reflects our individuality, and that our actions are highly predictive by the media we consume. Because how we act is predicated by what we believe, and online media shapes around reinforcing what we believe and predicting what we would believe, the usage and gratifications theory can be extended to also show the implications of being instantly gratified by online media. Due to the new personalized media approach built by algorithms, we are at a point where our method for consuming media directly controls the availability of information and the scope of media available for us to see. Through interacting with us, they are learning more effectively how to change our culture. Let's consider the implications of this. It is becoming much harder to coalesce under common goals since each movement is becoming further thinned out and throughout these decentralized media outlets. On a societal level, our future selves are being predicted and constructed by our algorithms. Our current actions are already proving to be dependent on them, and our cognitive biases, how we naturally operate, are reinforcing this pattern. So this problem is becoming increasingly hard to fix. As communications majors, we should recognize that by the act of having our media shape around targeting what we will become, our media is shaping our culture to what it perceives we will become. When we think about the chicken and the egg question, it could be argued that media is coming before the culture. Okay, so it's a big problem. What can we do? The only thing we can do is focus on an individual level, remain inquisitive, not only with ourselves and our own opinions, but about major institutions we typically don't think twice about. As always, the first step with any problem is awareness. For everyone listening, I have linked an ideology podcast that you can find on Spotify, American Ideologues, where we talk about large institutions from an ideological standpoint.